Alright, so this is my Don Quixote Secret Life of Walter Mitty project. And the question we'll be answering is the troubles the characters face leaving reality. And before we start doing that, we're going to explain why the characters' lives and how they're great contestants for this. So let's start. So Don Quixote, he was a man who basically lived in fairy tales and stories like King Arthur and with the knights and the dragons who go on noble adventures and come back heroes. And he envies them, and he feels that he wants to be like that. He wants to live a less boring life. So he goes on a crazy journey, and his friends start to worry. They get him back to come back once, but he leaves again with a companion named Sancho Panza. And as they go throughout the story gets longer after he finds his friend Sancho Panza, and they go on a crazy adventure. He promises him for a whole island, like a whole private island, and fame, and he wants to become a hero. He goes on crazy adventures, like windmills, is thinking as if they're giants. And the ending is actually very sad when you think about it. His friends become so concerned for him, and they say if he cannot come back by asking him nicely, they're going to have to force him to come back. So one of his friends, he dresses up as a knight, and he challenges him to a duel, and he says if whoever loses, then they're going to have to give up their quests and go back home and never speak about it again. And sadly, Don Quixote loses, so he's forced to go back, forget the life he wanted to start, and live his life as a very boring life. And for a quote that I chose for him is one of my personal favorite quotes is right here. "I have no money," Don Quixote answered. "I've never heard of any of the knights in the histories carrying money, or of their being asked for any in the castles they visited." It shows that he really hasn't faced reality. Then that reality is not like those fairy tales anymore. And it's a great example of how he lives his life in books, and he loves those fairy tales. Now on to the Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So the story is it really is his reality, but he's just living his everyday lives as if his zoning out and all of that is just normal daily things to help him remind him of things, daily tasks, like he had to get puppy biscuits for his puppy, of course, and he had this whole scenario of a law case, and they were all having these serious conversations, and all of a sudden somebody insults somebody, and that insult refers to a dog. I believe the insult was "you miserable cur." And he suddenly remembers puppy biscuits. That's what I had to get. And throughout the story, since he brings his, unlike Don Quixote, unlike Don Quixote, he zones out. He doesn't bring his dreams into reality. So everybody yells at him. They think he's crazy. He's losing his mind. And a quote that I chose for this was the very last sentence. "Walter Mitty, the undefeated, inscrutable to the last." It says that even though people think of him as a fool, and he's lost so much, and he keeps on zoning out, in his mind, he is the hero because he wants to be the hero. This is one thing Don Quixote and Walter Mitty have in common. They both want to be the heroes. They want to do something huge to do everything. And now that we know the story, we're now going to answer the real questions. So what are the consequences of escaping reality? First, we must understand what the difference is of the two characters. Walter Mitty, he prefers to zone out. He'll be sitting down, driving a car, and he'll just go into his little world that somehow has to do with the scenario that he is in, and he'll be woken up by something else. Now Don Quixote, he brings these crazy dreams into the reality. Like a perfect example is the windmill. he thought it was a giant, and he went to go attack the windmill, and he was hitting with a sword while his friend Sancho Panza somehow believes him and says somehow he plays along with this whole story because he knows that Don Quixote promised him such. Now, the consequences of Don Quixote is that people use his cluelessness against him, such as the Duke and the Duke and the Duchess. They take him into his castle. They treat him as a noble knight, and then they put him on a wooden horse filled with fireworks and stuff, and they explode it right in front of him. Make this weird prophecy about him, and they really just want to entertain themselves and make a complete fool out of Don Quixote. And then his own friends try and finally successfully end his own adventures, such as Samson the Bachelor, or as he dressed up, the Night of the Full Moon. As I explained earlier, he dressed up as the knight, challenged him for a duel, and whoever lost went and stopped their quest and stopped talking about it. In Don Quixote, he lost. And his life was ended by his own friends, his enjoyment, what he wanted. Can you just imagine how your friends could even do that? Now, Walter Mitty, his consequences, the people think as if he's mentally challenged, because it's not like every day you're driving on the road, and it's not safe if you're driving on the road and you suddenly disappear into reality and you have no idea what's going on where you're driving. A perfect one of the examples from the story is the woman on the street. After the scenario that I showed you about the law case and the puppy biscuits, as soon as he says it to himself to a group of women, they're like, he said puppy biscuit to himself, and they start making fun of him. And then a very sad thing is his own wife. She treats him as if he's a fool, and that he doesn't withstand much information, and he does not really understand what's going on. And that's all for today. Thank you very much.